Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Mortgage. I'm your host, Tracy Valko, and I'm excited for today's guest, my friend and president of DLCG, Dominion Lending Centers Group of Company Canada, Eddie Cocciollo. Eddie is a driving force between innovation and change in the mortgage industry. He empowers over 8,400 mortgage agents across the country with tools, technology, and strategies to help them drive success for their business in a very challenging industry. I know because I'm in it. Eddie's mission is simple: to ensure that the industry is elevated with education and tools for agents for success. Let's dive into Eddie's story of leadership and vision. Welcome, Eddie, to the show.
Thanks, Tracy. It's so nice to be here.
So let's dive into, we have so much to talk about.
Sure
Much to talk about. And first I want to say is not only are you a good friend of mine, but a high school colleague of mine as well.
Carnot Leger. Yes. Brampton, Ontario. We're just talking a little bit about it. You were a cheerleader. I played sports.
Exactly.
Those are the kind of things that you remember, but it's hard to really pinpoint times that we sort of cross, but I do remember you remember me, and here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So, and now we're in the same industry, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And, we've made waves over the years, and I can't believe how long we've been in it. I've been looking back, I've been in the industry 26 years. How long have you been in the industry?
So if you count my banking days when I did loans and mortgages since 92, 93.
Wow.
It's a long time. I don't even want to calculate that.
And it just goes like that, right?
Every year that goes by, I say, wow.
I know.
There's another year. I turned 53 this year, Tracy, and I feel like it's gone like that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Crazy.
Trying to reflect, and I know you've done so much and really move the needle in our industry. And I really want to talk about that today. But first, I want to get back to what I say, the ground roots of, because I think stories tell and resonate with our listeners. So let's dive into that. Let's talk about how you grew up, how many siblings you have. What was that? What was that journey for you?
Yeah, I grew up immigrant family. So my father and mother immigrated here from Brazil.
Wow.
My dad left Italy, met my mom in Brazil. They got married, and on that night, got on a plane and came to Canada. That was 1967. Last time the Leafs won a cup.
Let's not talk about that, right?
Then my sister was born first in 68. My brother, who he's also in the industry as a mortgage broker, born in 69. And now he followed up in 72. So I grew up with a brother and sister, older brother and sister. We lived a modest life. My father was self-employed, a painter, paper hanger. My mom had multiple jobs. She was actually a custodian at Carnot Leger. I don't know if you remember that.
No,
yes,
really?
My mom was
God.
a custodian at Leger, which
awesome.
Gave me a lot of anxiety, right? I mean, nobody wants their mom around when you're in high school. So, growing up in Brampton, I played sports, tried to fit in where I could. I didn't pursue post-secondary school. I actually went to college for 6 months, the first semester.
Okay.
School wasn't something that I adored. A lot of my friends worked at grocery stores that paid really well, loved to get in, but it was unionized, very tough. But I got into a bank, Canada Trust, as a customer service teller at that time. And I loved it. It was great. It was a small branch in Brampton, Kings Point Mall.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that.
Good friend of mine, Roger Govea, we worked there, and we had a blast. And Canada Trust at that time had a lot of young energy. And they were the bank that was open 8 to 8, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, kind of Saturday. So I used to work the Friday shifts, go out with my colleagues at Ricky Joe's, and go out late, kind of fall asleep and wake up with the same clothes on, go to work on Saturday morning, smelling like cigarettes and booze.
That's what you do, right?
Yeah, but we had such a great time. And from there, I learned customer service. I learned cross-selling because Canada Trust was very good at ensuring that everybody had a role to play when it came to recognizing, bank accounts and going, hey, would you think of a GIC? Let me introduce you to the side counter person. Maybe they're getting a deposit for a real estate. Hey, did you talk to our mortgage person? Let me introduce you. So that whole idea of training and conditioning happened early for me, in my early 20s. So I eventually made it over to the side counter and loved it. And one of the things that I loved doing the most was lending money instead of asking them for deposits, because it was easier to put smiles on their face. And so I recognized pretty early, hey, if I could get them credit cards, lines of credits, loans, and most importantly, mortgages, they would be happier. So I sort of honed in on that.
Okay.
Canada Trust at that day had the mortgage sales
They did,
force. Believe it or not, when I was ready and I earned it, they were on a hiring freeze. Bruno Marcella, who's still in the business today, was the manager or RVP at that time for the mortgage sales force at CIBC. A good friend of mine at that time, Matt Murphy, knew him and said, hey, this guy would be great on the mortgage side. And I became a CIBC mortgage specialist at that time. A lot of the people I worked with at that time still in the industry. Nina Ricchetti, Bruno Marcella, obviously, Ron De Silva, Fiona Campbell, who just retired, Andy Charles, who's part of. So that whole group of us really had a great time being mortgage specialists. And again, learn the entrepreneurial side.
That's right, yeah.
Because you didn't make a salary. You sort of ate what you killed, and it was a great sort of stepping stone to being a mortgage broker, which I did do with Assured Mortgages in Mississauga. I was lucky enough to get an in-house at a Sutton Group in Streetsville, and really loved it. I really enjoyed being a mortgage broker. Did my time there where GE Money launched in Canada. And that time, Rick Lunny was the CEO. I knew Rick from my mortgage brokering days, and they hired me on to help them launch in Canada. And that was a fantastic experience on so many fronts. GE was very aggressive. First one to launch a 30-year AM, first to launch 40-year AM, which
I wish we had now.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we didn't have much of a runway because 6 months later, CMHC came up with a 40-year AM.
Yeah, they did. That. Yeah, I do.
Sort of crushed our dreams because even though we were a non-prime lender at the time, the whole idea of 40-year AM was to give them the same payment as on the A side, give them some relief, and the exit strategy was to eventually get them to the A side. So that was short-lived, and then, of course, the financial crisis happened, so many companies at that time exited the Canadian market and exited lending altogether with that. So I moved over to CIBC where Rick was, and I actually moved there to run the Access desk in their first line. So Access at that time was their non-prime space. But unfortunately, CIBC sort of got caught up in the asset-backed paper fiasco, and it was more of a reputational risk than they're recognizing that losses. So they pulled back on that program, left me sort of in limbo. But at that time, Mortgage Center Canada was between leaders, and that's when they tapped my shoulder and said, would you want to run Mortgage Center Canada?
And Mortgage Center Canada, am I correct on that, was linked to CIBC at that time, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So Mortgage Center Canada was actually the first network across the country and one of the longest standing networks in Canada. Created in 1989 as equity centers, and then CIBC bought them in 1991 under the First Line brand. So First Line was connected with equity centers. That purchase came over with the mortgage brokerage. They turned it into Mortgage Center Canada, and the rest is history. And as you know, and Gary and Chris acquired in a bid process Mortgage Center in 2013. I kind of came with that asset and ran Mortgage Center, continued running Mortgage Center under the DLCG brand until 2019. Gary and Chris tapped on my shoulder to lead DLC, and then January of 2023, I added responsibilities of Mortgage Center Canada Mortgage Architect. So it's been quite the journey. Like anybody, I consider myself lucky in a lot of ways, and it's been the right place, the right time, but also the experience that I've gained over the multiple positions that I've had, I'm sure was very beneficial in myself leading here. So, yeah, it's been a journey, and every day is a challenge.
Yeah.
Every day you're learning something else.
Well, we're in such a challenging industry already, and change, I said, is like constant. I know that you support over 8,400 mortgage professionals in the DLCG network. So just so that our listeners understand, DLCG is the largest mortgage industry network in Canada, and they support mortgage agents to be able to serve and support clients and their families in home ownership. So you support the mortgage agents with technology, with tools, with support to help them thrive and be able to be the best version for themselves, and if they own a brokerage, for their agents as well. I know that role doesn't come without a lot of time, dedication. It's got to come with passion, because the support that you have to fill everyone's bucket. And, I'm in awe of the journey you had, because I feel that, I know how dedicated, how consistent you had to be able to move the needle to get into every position you're in. Is it opportunity? Yes, but I also think it also comes with your mindset and what your tool belt has to be able to support you in every role. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you develop the consistent mindset of growth and consistency? Did you have hiccups? Did you feel when there were some economic transitions, which we had, and some closures of companies, did that set your mind back a bit on thinking that, was there challenges for you that you felt you were able to overcome during the times where you saw some opportunity?
Yeah, always. I mean, they continue today. There's always going to be challenges. And, anybody that is a leader will tell you that they wonder how they got there. And, it's one of those things where I was very lucky to have the support system that I had. And it goes back to family, right?
Yeah.
Always. Mentors are so important along the way. To surround yourself with like-minded individuals, that was very important. And also to have the confidence to know that, hey, you know what, no matter where you are and what situation you're in, you're probably the subject matter expert. Most likely people are leaning on you. You're not necessarily the smartest person in the room, but you are going to contribute. And that contribution is important. And I think always for me, it was ensuring that whenever I did contribute, that it was in a manner that I looked confident. It was in a manner that I still wanted to listen, but I wanted to be heard. And I think that when you do that throughout your career, people respect it. I never was the one that always said, it's my way or the highway. I always, listened to others. And when you surround yourself with people that are great or even better than you, and having the foresight to say, hey, you know what, I need to make sure that I'm surrounded with people that are smarter than me, that maybe have more experience than me, that when we work together well, and that formula, you'll be okay. It's when you think you're the smartest person, when you think that no one knows more than I do, I think that's when you get in trouble. If I look at leaders in the past, I think those are the ones that sort of fizzled out.
Yeah.
The ones that had open door policies, the ones that said, hey, you know what, I'm going to listen more than I'm going to talk, they seem to always thrive. And that's the kind of leader that I wanted to be, and I think it was a benefit for me. But when it comes to challenges, are there market challenges? There's always challenges. I think you have to have the mindset that you can overcome them, no matter what. And even go further and say, I'm not going to participate in any negativity that may be out there. Instead, I'm going to look for opportunities and solutions. So if you have that mindset and you gather everyone around to have the same mindset, you'll win more often. And I think that's what's helped us throughout. We have fantastic leaders. Our founders very well. I mean, obviously, my mentors, Gary and Chris,
Absolutely.
for so many reasons. And I recognize how their mindset is, and it's always on a winning side. They very rarely bring up anything in the negative, and that is because they do believe there is a way through.
There's always opportunity.
There's always opportunity. And that's just the way that you have to you have to, sure, you have to recognize there is challenges. You have to recognize tariffs affect employment. You have to recognize these things and educate you on them, but you don't have to focus on them.
Exactly. I think that to your point, you have to know so that you can have an educated conversation
100%.
with people and be that professional so that people feel that they're supported and that you're there to be able to help them through it. But you can't dive into that spiral, right? Because it's not going to get you. And first of all, like the other thing too is you and I aren't sitting in Parliament to be able to move the needle. And even if we were, is that going to move the needle? I don't know at this point, right? So we can only control our own, right? And I love what you said about like Chris and Gary. So for listeners, Chris and Gary, so Gary Morris and Chris Kyatt are the founders of DLC and DLCG. I went back, I think, they started in 2006.
That's right.
They had just a couple hundred agents. I remember when they actually came, ground on the feet, traveling Canada, speaking to mortgage agents. And I know because I was in the room back then. And we couldn't even, I was with a network and we weren't even allowed to have a website. This is how old I'm going to feel. And all the listeners are going to go, how old are you, Tracy? But we weren't able to have a website. And I was saying to my husband at the time, I want to move the needle on marketing. I want to be known out there like a bank. And I remember Gary saying specifically that DLC will be known as one of those staples, just like the bank. In the broker channel, we'll have our own websites, and the technology was, first class and always continued to be that way. And that's when I hopped on. And here we are today. I mean, what are we looking at now? Almost like, what is that, 20 years? Like, they're going to be coming up, right? And they're consistently driving to be number one in the industry. I mean, I've met with them numerous times. To your point, you coming on board, now being the president of DLCG, having that same mindset. You're gaining this momentum in the industry of that caliber of, again, exceptional mindset, always opportunity. But we're in a situation, I feel now, where, like you said, there's a lot of heaviness in the world. Like, we've always had it. And I think specifically in our industry, I say, is very competitive. So how do you stay yourself focused and fill your bucket? Because you every day, I know, I mean, I've talked to you many times. You've had to fill a lot of people's buckets in our industry that maybe have been like on, what's going on? How do I move the needle? Like, we've had these ups and downs of volume. How do you actually support yourself during these times?
Yeah, the mental health part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, family, first and foremost. Yeah. I'm very fortunate to have an incredibly supportive wife in Tracy.
Yeah.
My boys who are 25, 23, and 20, they are my best friends. I think leaning on other friends, and separating yourself sometimes is so important. We work so hard.
Yeah.
There's no 9 to 5 in any of our positions. It's, if you're not actually physically working, there's a mental piece that is thinking about work. And trying to have that separation is so important. And I just try to do that. And, it's either, going to the gym, my hour or in a bit or less in the morning is my separation. I don't think about work very often. It's usually a podcast. That's for me. I cycle. If I'm on my bike, I'm usually escaping. Or if I'm with my family, Tracy can be like, you're not that good at it.
This one's for you, Tracy.
Yeah. I try to have that separation where, I'm focused and present. I'm working on it. It's always a work in progress, but that's those are the things that I try to do. But, you said passion. I'm passionate about what I do. I love this industry. It's done so well for me and my family. I do feel like I can make a difference, and if you feel that way, then you tend to gravitate towards the things that you can make a difference on. And so I'm okay with jumping on a call, and if I get a text on a weekend, or last night I got a call at 6:30 or text at 6:30 say, hey, can we jump on a call? And it was a 15-minute conversation that I know de-escalated a situation for that broker owner, that if it was waiting for tomorrow morning or this morning, might have had him all in knots. So I'm sensitive to that. I understand that sometimes just a few words can calm people, and I'm more than willing to give that. The truth is 80% of my day is solving problems. 80% of my day is making sure that I can get an answer to somebody that's going to advance them or be there for them. So I got to do that, and I'm okay with that position and that role, and you have to be. So the mental health part is always a challenge, but you have to have those little things that can make that separation, and they are so important. I know that you spend a lot of time with your family. Community work is really important to you. You do such an incredible job in your community, and I know that helps you separate yourself, because you need that. As brokers, as owners, we are inundated with helping others, and sometimes you have to take that time to help yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had this question posed to me, because we're in a finance industry about numbers and money. Why have you been in this industry so long? Like, what is the passion behind what you do? So I'm asking you that question.
Yeah.
It's monies and numbers. Like, I don't think you and I grew up at 5 years old going, hey, I want to be in the mortgage industry and be a broker or be an owner, right? Like, to this day, my parents still, don't really understand what a mortgage broker is. They just never, they were in the banking side, God bless them. But what's the why for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a good question. I mean, we do fall into sometimes what we end up doing, and then that passion is developed. And of course, for me, it's just the people.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You look at some of the friends we forged over time, and who we spend time with are people that are in this industry, because they're just such wonderful people. And you're going to gravitate to those that are like you. And, I've done that over the years, and some of my really good friends are part of this industry. A lot of them are a lot older than me, which is strange, because you think you don't have things in common, but, you find them. You find the things in common, and you love to spend time. So, I mean, the why would be the people. I think that's what is incredible, but also the challenges. The one thing that this industry doesn't have is a dull moment. The one thing this industry doesn't have is the same thing over and over. We might go for a stretch where, and then, government regulation comes in and changes all that, or, lenders start exiting and make it more challenging, or there's, loan to value changes and rates and geopolitical, and it's always bang, bang. And that actually is kind of cool, because I have friends that are in industries that are very vanilla and very square. And you can see them just kind of falling into that sort of life of, like a robot.
Yeah.
Can't be good for everybody. And I think I love the challenges. I love that, we get to change and pivot, and, something else is happening, and lenders are coming in and out, and networks are being better. Here's what I love that we've done as an industry. And I think mortgage brokering has become a mainstay. I don't think, anyone in Canada doesn't know what a mortgage broker does. When I say that, I don't mean just, finding other alternative ways. No, we're becoming the de facto for Canadians to come and talk about their finances, their homeownership dreams, and overall, I like to say we're consulting them on money. And I think that's going to get better and better and better. Sure, there's AI and people are worried about digital. That's been around forever, Tracy. And I can tell you, people are looking for a voice. They're looking for experience. And they want to know that information that they're receiving is coming from someone that knows what they're doing. And brokers are becoming that. Banks have a tough time.
Oh, 100%.
Turnover is huge.
Yeah.
They have a tough time with that expertise. I think brokers are going to be sought after more and more, and this industry is just going to keep growing and growing. And a good example is Australia or the UK, where more often people are going to mortgage brokers for their financing. And I think Canada is on the cusp of seeing more and more of that. And someone like DLCG, who's publicly traded, that has a reputation, that lenders are appreciating, regulators are appreciating. People are gravitating to those brands because they understand that they have safety. They know that there's constant growth, investment. They know that it's going to be an entity that people are going to recognize. And I'm very proud to be part of an organization that's doing that. And that was always the plan for Gary and Chris. They knew and Chris was the first broker back in 2006. They knew they're going to grow this to something special. And that vision and that dream is coming to fruition, and it is very exciting.
Oh, 100%. And I think the thing is, when you look at it, they've been able to pivot in very challenging economic times and still staying resilient. When I first got into the mortgage industry as a broker, I think we only penetrated less than 20% of the actual market space in Canada. Now we're at probably 42%, if not even more. But here's the biggest thing. It's conversation you have with just it, whether it's a client or someone in the community. People know what a mortgage broker is. When I first started,
100%.
I spent more of my day explaining what a mortgage broker is, and like, what are you doing? What industry are you in? Why did you get into that? So
at CIBC, we used to have board meetings, and I have to, and every time I sat in one, I had to explain what Mortgage Center Canada was.
Yeah.
Every single time to these executives, I had no clue. Oh, I thought Mortgage Center was like the back office for mortgages where you do administration. Okay, let me tell you about a broker, what we do. There's none of that. Every institution, you name it, knows exactly what a mortgage broker does. They know exactly who DLC is. And that's kind of cool.
And you just said it, because I was going to say that, is I had to explain being a mortgage broker. And then when I moved over to Dominion, I had to spend 10 minutes explaining Dominion. And then I get into, okay, what is it? What are we looking to do here? So what's nice is that, like, well, it's amazing. And kudos to Chris and Gary and, again, the whole team. Everyone knows DLC. Like, DLC is a staple out there. You need to explain that. We don't. It's been, like, the grounding foundation in Canada in the mortgage space, which is so exciting to see, but I think it's so important because we've got new generational blood coming into our industry. So they don't have the barriers that we had going through. Even though they were barriers, I find that I go back, and when you say, the good old days, I do believe that was the good old days, because even though you explained it, you didn't really realize what was actually coming from that,
100%.
right? So now you've got new generational people coming in. They don't have to explain it. And there's a different mindset out there of new agents coming in. And I want to talk about that and how you're managing that, maybe not necessarily one-on-one with these agents, because you are such a very broad macro level position now. But how are you finding when you're speaking to broker owners on how they're navigating with new agents and the environment that we're in today?
Yeah, new agents, when it comes to that, it's really important that you feel like you have the solution. You have the wherewithal, and you have the training ground to make sure they're successful.
Yeah.
The days of, just negotiating a split, being there when they need you are over. If that's what you're going to do, you're probably not going to be successful as a new agent going into that program like that. And the person that has those new agents coming are probably not going to keep them. So the constant improvement, the constant training, education is so important. DLC has been doing that really early. Aging universities, we have our Inspire conference coming up, which is, all about education, putting the right people on the stage to give brokers, agents, owners the right platform to take back one, two, or all the things to improve their business. That constant education is so vital in this industry. So our focus is there. We ensure that if you're going to be new in the industry, that you have a path. That path is drawn up for you, and where do you want to go, we'll get you there. So that's where our focus is. We have incredible owners right across the country, including yourselves, that do have that same kind of path within their own organization. And that support they need to give them the training materials. Technology has been such a huge springboard for these new agents. A lot of the technology within Velocity can take a new agent through, and they have that in front of them anytime they need it. It's not like they have to search for it or they have to go to a video. It's right there, part of their workflow. And we are constantly improving that technology to ensure not only our new agents, but all of our agents have what they need to be successful, be it with compliance, be it with application, be it with getting into the lender or the information about that lender. All that is in one technology, and we keep improving that technology to get better and better. We're coming up with a new version recently. I believe you're on it. That's all about supporting our agents, making it better, making it easy, more efficient. And that investment is so important. And I think if you're not investing in technology and you're not investing in your agents and improving them, you're not going to be around for much longer. It's just the natural selection of this industry now where, 10 years ago, I mean, if you had a name, you'd probably be okay. It's not enough anymore. You have to have it all.
Yeah.
You got to have the training ground. You have to have the people. You have to have the technology. You have to have the branding. You have to have the marketing. You have to have it all, or else you're not going to attract the best. And we're going to continue investing in that. We're going to continue focusing on that. That's not going to change.
And I think what's good about that is that you as a network are doing that to help the owner so that they're not stuck in the weeds of doing that and then trying to build it. Because you can't do it all. And I've talked to you many times about this. As a very active mortgage broker over the years myself in building, I'm very fortunate to have an incredible team and building a community of helping and serving people. Then to have a brokerage and help support agents, you can't build the technology and do all that yourself. So having that groundwork from the network, I think has been so paramount for a lot of owners, and you guys continually raise the bar and bring that in. And you said, like, I always get this question: is AI going to be the demise of mortgage brokers? And I say, and I'll ask you what what your thought is. I said, no, AI is going to be a tool to help enhance us. In fact, I feel like we're going to be even more needed because people still want to have conversation. They want to hear the story.
Yes.
They want to have the support. And the main thing is mortgage financing is going to become more complicated. And as mortgage brokers, we're more educated to be able to help people in niches. Maybe I answered the question, but I'm going to ask you, what's your thought on that?
Same.
Okay.
So I do believe AI is going to improve the processes.
Yeah.
It's going to improve the risk tolerance. It's going to improve the pieces of the business that an AI machine can go in and say really quickly, yes, you're on the right track. This is the right lender. We've gone through all the risk factors, the income, down payment, check mark, check mark, check mark. We like to think of verifying that situation. AI will be great for that. What it's not going to replace is the emotional piece of that purchase, of that refinance. It's not going to replace the understanding of the experience that mortgage broker can give that client. And I look at my boys who are in their 20s, and my oldest purchased a property, and he needs that advice. He starves for that advice. He's so sick of going online and trying to find the answers because the answers are all different. I believe that AI is going to have a part in the process, but they're not going to bring in the clients. They're not going to give that emotional connection. And then at the end, how are they going to follow up? There may be a connection on the follow-up. So think about, the anniversaries of the mortgage. Think about, connecting with the client, communicating. It's probably going to play a part. But when that phone rings, it's not the AI machine that's going to pick it up. It's going to be Tracy Valko. So, and I think people are going to, I look at what's happening in the AI space. And the one thing I'm recognizing is that when you're talking to a robot, you're talking to a robot.
Exactly. Yeah.
People are saying, it's going to get better. I get it. It's going to get better, but you're still going to recognize it's not Tracy, it's not Eddie. Eventually, you want to speak to a Tracy and an Eddie. And I think people are going to starve for that connection. The relationship piece of that transaction cannot be replaced by a robot. I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I do believe that AI is going to play a part. I do believe that brokers have a really good future, and I'm excited about it.
And I think that human nature, if you look at it from a scientific level, we are connected to people. I think we function better with our bodies, with our movement, by having a conversation with somebody across the room. I don't think that's ever changed. It's funny because we've had clients come back into the office. Our industry's very much changed over COVID. I think out of all the industries out there where we become more online, it's Zoom calls that you're building relationships, where before it was people coming in and it's face-to-face, where people are starting to come back in again because they want that. So I don't think that will ever change. I really want to kind of change the pendulum now, and I want to really dive into, you've been in this industry for a very, very long time. My question to you is, when you look at all the years, what's the one person or situation that you feel that has really emotionally impacted you to change maybe your thought process going forward in the industry or maybe in life?
Yeah, one person. That's a tough one for me to pick. What I've done more often, and this is sort of the mentorship that Gary Morris has given me, is I spend more time, with the Jim Rohns of the world, Darren Hardys of the world, more time with reading and learning, and that's given me more confidence, more understanding. When you are able to listen to a podcast of, let's just pick Jim Rohn, or you're hearing Darren Hardy talk about how to be successful, it gives you another piece of understanding of how to get to that next level. And for those that don't do it, you are falling behind. I think you have to have a mentor, and it could be a person. So Tracy Valko might be my mentor, and I'm going to check in with Tracy Valko every once in a while, and she's going to give me, the pieces of her advice that I'm going to take into my life. Or it could be someone online, or it could be a book, but you have to have that mentorship. I think that's really changed my life. To be, around people like yourself, like others that are successful, and learning from you and others is really important. Being open, taking in information, doing research. I think those are the things that, are really important. The emotional piece of that is the excitement and the goosebumps you get when you've learned something, and it could have been last week, last month, a year ago, or 2 years ago, and you remember it and you get goosebumps because you say, oh, man, this worked. I think that is exciting. And just, this industry can be tough. This industry can be challenging. So having the wherewithal to have that mentorship, either personally, as a person, on a book, or a podcast, can make a difference. I really believe that.
It's so true. And when you go to bed at night, do you do a gratitude journal? Do you do, tell me about your routine? Because people like to know that.
Yeah.
For someone that's at the level and where you've come, and I just got to give you credit, because when I sit there and look at, especially, you and I are around the same age, remember, school was such a important part of our journey, where I think it's changed nowadays. Everybody's got their own journey if they go to university or college, but nowadays there's so many ways you can learn through podcasting or certification programs, or just through actually doing the work. And you move through an era where people did go to college and university, and look how well you did. And that's a testament to your mindset and your drive. And it's actually given me chills, because I sit there and go, some people, not everybody's meant for school, but they're actually meant for success. And back then it was well, if you don't go to university or college, that's going to be challenging for you. You outweighed the odds, and that's incredible. And I don't know, you said it so quickly in passing. I just want you to take a moment and reflect on that, because, my friend, that was an era where that is not common.
Yeah, again, I know it sounds crazy, but the luck piece sometimes plays a part. Just being at the right place, the right time, and maybe even saying the right thing. Education, is important in some aspects. It's a handicap in others.
Yeah.
And, for me, learning either through others, reading, mentorship was important to me. Watching, the Rick Lunnies of the world, and the Bruno Marcellos of the world, and Gary Morris and Chris, and, my dad or my brother or others, that was more important to me, to learn from them. And not that, education wasn't important, but it wasn't for me. Right? Reading from a book, memorizing and regurgitating on a piece of paper so you can get a mark, and that mark would determine where you are on a level of your didn't resonate with me. It wasn't important to me.
What do What do you teach your children? Do you?
They better go to school. They better I'm just kidding. You know, the path for my kids was up to my kids. So my eldest is really, really quick. Great example. You know, went to school, business school. It was Ryerson at the time. So he was in the Rogers School of Business, and he did 3 years. He only needed one more year, but he was doing a business at the same time. So he came to those crossroads where he said, Dad, I could leave my business, and I'll be behind a little bit. I can finish school, but I think it's more important that I focus on my business. So it sounds like you made the decision. You don't need me. I think it's a great decision. But if you made the other decision, I'd say that's a great decision too. That's up to you. And he did. So he worked on his business, very successful marketing business. So it's up to, it's up to that individual. It's what you want. I would not force, if I'm a parent, I would not force my child for that education piece, but I would support them in that education piece. That's my decision. I know there's lots of parents out there that said, no, you got to get a degree, and that's their decision. My parents never forced me. My parents were immigrants. I don't think my parents had high school. So their success was just survival, really. I mean, my dad came to this country with nothing. My mom, nothing. And, and that survival just got them to where they are. And listen, my parents they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of assets, but they live life. And, I never regretted anything they did for us. We didn't go on any vacations, really. We didn't, partake in, big things. Like, that was for them, not us. But I never felt like I missed anything. We had a great childhood.
Do you reflect now? I mean, they're getting up at my parents too, and that, that retirement, elderly era. What are the lessons you learned through that? Because I know I've learned some big ones.
Yeah, my mom's got vascular dementia, and watching that has been very, very hard, even for my dad, who is now the caregiver. Imagine my mom took care of us and the family and my dad, her whole life. In the last 3 years, my mom needs her makeup done, her hair done, bathed, cooked for it. My dad's doing everything. What that learned for me is, wow, how powerful is love, right? Anybody could have just put up their hand and said, okay, I got to do something with this person who is my wife and I love her. But my dad stepped up.
How long have they been married?
Oh, God. 50, I think they're 57 years, 67, what is that? No, I can't. Yeah, 58 years?
58 years.
58 years, yeah. 58 years, yeah.
Isn't that crazy? My parents were 56.
56.
So before my dad passed. So it's a different love when you see that journey of where it goes. Like from, obviously you remember when you were younger to some extent, but as you see it develop and go into this caregiving stage, it changed me. It defined me in a different way. It made me reflect on my own relationship with my husband in a very different way. Did you and Tracy, do you find that with Tracy? I know your parents are still alive, but still seeing that, has that changed it for you and Tracy? Do you find something has shifted for you? I mean, how long have you been married?
Yeah, so we're going on 28 years, and I said to her, if that was me, you'd be on your own. I don't know if I'd take care of you like my dad's taking care of my mom. Of course, I say that tongue in cheek. But yeah, of course, Tracy lost her mom this year, so that was very tough on her and on all of us. You gain this appreciation of what you have, because sometimes you forget.
For sure you do.
Right? You forget what you have in this partner that's supporting you, and you take advantage of her and of him, and you remember, hey, wait a minute, we're in this together. And no matter how tough a day you have, or you can't take it out on your partner because they had nothing to do with it. So I think there's less of that for me.
Yeah.
And more appreciation, right? And more appreciation of what she has done, not only every day, but also the last 2.5 decades.
Well, think about this, because I joke about this, my husband's in the industry, as you know, and I think that's why our marriage has stayed on the way it has. We're 29 years. But I said, if the way my schedule and the way that I've been able to do this business, I can't imagine having a partner that hasn't been in my industry. Would they understand? I don't know. I don't think so. So I always joke about that. I'd probably end up being divorced. Here you and Tracy are totally different on industries. how did you make it work? Or like, what has been the challenge in that? Because I got to think from her perspective, you don't know until you're actually in her industry. She can look at it optically and see, but you don't know until you're actually in it, right? Like,
Absolutely.
So how do you think what's made that so successful for the two of you?
Yeah, and I think for her is just watching me and what I do every day and just trying to support it. And she is the one that probably hears more of the negative than anybody else. Like, I try to keep that in a box. Like, there's not a lot of it, but when there is, she's probably hearing it and she's giving the advice that she can. And 9 times out of 10, it's really good advice. Yeah. And I think it is because she is outside of the industry. I think for Bruno, it's like he probably just goes, oh, okay, well, I see that every day too, Tracy. Well, this industry could be hard. Yeah. It can be really hard. Days go by quickly because it's sometimes very repetitive. But yeah, I've just been lucky, Tracy, honestly. And you talk about divorce, and obviously 50% of couples end up in divorce. It might be higher in this industry. It seems like everybody I know, is
it's a tough one.
It's a
for
tough
sure.
one. It's tough.
I mean, probably you and I are one of the maybe handful of people in the industry that's been married this long. Like,
right.
I'm coming up to 30 years next year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's again a testament of being open and honest. And sometimes it's tough, and those really tough years is trying to find a way through. It's easy to put your hands up and go,
it is 100%. But do you not feel like, and I mean, this could be even another podcast on it, but I'm telling you one thing I can say, I've actually learned so much through clients going through divorce.
Yeah.
I've actually learned how to be a better partner. I've learned to respect better. I learned, to your point, where there's times where you don't feel like you appreciate and you're going through the motions of your kids being small and you get disconnected, and how to come back and be the biggest cheerleader for someone else and watch them grow. I think that love is defined in a different way going forward, and I actually embrace it more and in such gratitude. I think sometimes when you go through some very traumatic things, to be able to come back together more resilient, like, oh my God, I get chills because it's the most beautiful thing. They say when you go through the darkest times to come 100%. Through, right? I think you and I are very fortunate, and that's a testament to the people we are, the passion we have. I love what you said. It's about people. That's why you got in the industry. That's why I did. I think that's why you and I have been such strong friends over the years. Listen, we've had our times where we'll be able to have an open conversation, but we've been able to have an open conversation. And I think that that's some gratitude and grace for that. So I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
I mean, we could go on, and I know we're going to have you again, but I can't say enough what you do for this industry.
Thank you.
The empowerment and the impactfulness that you have on mortgage agents, not only in our network, but with other networks, is a testament to the drive of wanting to make sure that you enhance this industry, and it doesn't go without notice. So thank you for taking the time today. What I wanted to do is to tell the listeners, if they want to connect with you or to DLCG to learn about resources on not only the mortgage industry, but the DLCG network, how do they do that?
Well, you can connect with me directly. And, one thing I do very well is get back to people. So email's Eddie@dlc.ca. It's Eddie with a Y. You can go online. It's what is my handle? I think you can show it on.
I can.
I should know it, but obviously my Instagram, Facebook. If you'd like to connect with me, absolutely. And just reach out. Love to talk to you about anything.
Awesome. Any last words, my friend?
Tracy, thanks for everything you do. I mean, you've been sort of a trailblazer in this industry. Not sort of. You have been a trailblazer in this industry. People know you. They respect you. What you do for your community is just unbelievable, very inspirational. And thank you for everything you do. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Eddie.
Yeah.
And thank you to all the listeners today for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure you click the subscribe button or share it with your network, friends, or family. Until next time, support one another and stay connected to your amazing community.